I parked my own truck in my own garage, and within 5 minutes, my neighbor dialed 911, screaming I had stolen her car. Yeah, that happened while my kids stood in the doorway with red and blue lights splashed across their faces like they were extras in somebody else's disaster movie. If you've ever felt like a stranger on your own driveway, you know that drop in your stomach. That quiet panic that says, don't move wrong, don't speak wrong. Just breathe and pray. The truth doesn't get drowned out by the volume. It was a Saturday evening in Cedar Ridge, Colorado. The air thin and gold, and all I wanted was ribs on the grill and a couple of laughs with my kids after a long week. The garage door rattled up my 2020 Chevy Tahoe eased over the concrete with that soft tire hush. And for half a second, I let myself enjoy the feeling I had worked years for. I'd said no to vacations. Took double shifts at the distribution center. Skipped 1,000 little treats so I could say yes to one big thing I could park under my own roof. Then here comes Linda Brackett, floral blouse, phone, clutched like a badge, marching across the street, like she had jurisdiction over my oxygen. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing with that truck?" I actually laughed, because what else do you do when someone asks why you're parking at your own house? "Evening, Linda, just pulling in." "That is not your vehicle." She snapped eyes, cutting to the magnets and reflective tape laid out on my workbench. "It was at auction last month. I bid on it, and you're impersonating law enforcement to cover your tracks. For the record, the decals were for a little neighborhood safety patrol. I do with other dads and grandmas. We walk folks to their door at night, change the occasional tire. Nothing with sirens or lights. Nothing fancy. But try telling that to someone determined to be right." My daughter Zoe peeked into the garage, her brother Eli behind her, squeezing the doorframe. Little faces going pale, and I kept my voice flat and gentle inside you two. "We're good because kids set their weather by your calm." Linda already had 911 ringing her stare locked on mine, like the words were supposed to handcuff me. "Yes, dispatch. We have a thief. He's turning a stolen truck into a police vehicle. He refuses to surrender my property." And then the whole neighborhood started peeling open curtains, twitching doors, cracking quiet, getting loud. In that way, where your heartbeat suddenly sounds like it came with a microphone. Tomas Delgado from across the street wiped his hands on a shop rag and walked over. I helped Marcus put those magnets on. "Nothing permanent. He doesn't pull people over, come on." But Linda didn't blink. "You're in on it." And by then, I could hear the sirens rolling up the hill like a bad idea gathering speed. 3 patrol cars slid to a stop, and the officers stepped out with that cautious posture that says they're ready for anything. Not angry, just charged. And the tallest one, with a steady voice, said, "Sir, step away from the vehicle," and I did, palms open. No sudden moves, the whole dance you learn to do when someone else's fear can become your problem in half a second. "My name is Marcus Hale." I said, "I live here. I can prove it's mine." And Linda jabbed a finger like a TV lawyer. "Arrest him before he runs." And the officer looked from her to the Tahoe to my kids in the doorway, something in him softening. "Do you have proof on you?" And I nodded. Inside, title, registration, insurance, all in my name. And Linda cut in sharp as a blade. "Don't let him back in. He'll shred evidence. That's what people like him do. People like him. 4 words that land like a brick, you know what I mean." The officer kept it professional, walked me to the door, waited while I brought out a neat stack. I had kept pristine for exactly the moment I prayed would never come. He ran a light along the seals and signatures, I read off the VIN from the door. Another officer checked it over the radio, and waiting felt like an exam where the teacher is grading your humanity in front of the class. "These look legitimate," the tall officer said. "We'll confirm the VIN," and Linda ramped up again. He forged them. He's clever, and Tomas just sighed. Enough. But the kids were crying now, so I crouched and took their hands. I'm not in trouble. Sometimes out. Wrong talks over quiet. Right? But right doesn't vanish. And finally, the radio crackled. Clean vehicle, registered to Marcus Hale, and I felt air hit my lungs like someone opened a window. It lasted 4 seconds. "That doesn't mean anything," Linda barked. "He tricked the system. He's dangerous," and the officer's patience snapped into a firm line. "Ma'am, you can file a complaint, but there is no crime." And Linda stared at me like she was memorizing a mugshot. "You'll regret ignoring me." And then the lights faded, the doors shut, and my house stayed bright, because none of us could sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with the papers spread out like a tiny shield, and called my sister Renee, who works as a paralegal, and moonlights as my better instincts. And by noon on Sunday, she was at my door with a laptop, and that hunted look good people get when they smell something rotten. "Tell me everything." And I did the auction. Claim the decals. The phrase "people like him." And her face went very still. I'm pulling complaint logs, HOA minutes, email records, public filings, and she set up shop like a one-woman audit. By dinner, she had printouts stacked by color. 3 years of Linda's complaints against multiple families. 2 of them moved within a year, and I said, "Maybe coincidence, because sometimes your heart begs the world to be nicer than it is." And Renee tapped a page. Or a pattern then slid me emails between Linda and our HOA president, Preston. Ward polished teeth in a human suit, taking her notes and turning them into violation letters, and fines at timing, suspiciously close to house listings, and open houses less a list of preferred realtors. The board just happened to recommend the main LLC managed by Preston's brother-in-law. And I stared at my glass of water, like the bottom had a calmer answer. So my truck was the match on a fuse line running the length of our block, and Renee nodded. Exactly. And that same week, somebody posted phone video of the sirens, and Linda's shouting into a Cedar Ridge Facebook group. The local station did a segment. The HOA posted a statement about an internal review that sounded like word salad, designed to catch nothing. And a reporter named Tasha Red sat on my porch asking what happened, and I told her straight. No theater, just humiliation and paperwork, and a neighborhood power game bigger than a couple magnets. And the messages poured in prayers and threats, and a black Lexus creeping slow down my street one night. Tomas whispering, "That's Preston." And my palms went flat on the counter until the tremble left, because fear is a job. Some folks try to make you do for free. And here's the twist, the part where the floor shifts. Renee kept digging and found the money trail not a big heist with fireworks, just small transfers over 6 years to vendors that don't exist when you check the state rolls. Landscaping firms with no licenses, security upgrades with no contractors of record. A few thousand here, a few thousand there. Hundreds of thousands bled out of our community account and into shell companies, tied to the same tiny circle of names, and we packaged it all and filed with the Attorney General. Hit submit, listened for a splash that might take months to echo back. And that's when Preston called an emergency HOA meeting. The community center was full folding chairs, scraping like crickets' faces. Tight arms folded, and Preston stepped up in a perfect blue suit, with a smile that didn't make it to his eyes. Our neighborhood runs on trust. Misinformation has caused confusion. Let me set the record straight. Lots of words landing light. Talk about decals and the perception of impersonation. Not a single use of my name, but every head turning toward me like a compass needle. And I stood, and the metal legs of my chair screamed on the tile. This isn't about decals, I said. This is about power, about complaints, turned into weapons, about fines that line up with for sale signs about money, that left our accounts and never came home, and Linda exploded. Lies, he forged everything, and Renee walked down the aisle with a folder and a laptop. Emails between you two. Payments to shell companies. Vendor registrations that lead to empty lots and mail drops. The complaint is on file with the state, and something in Preston's jaw did a small tick, not much, just enough to let air in, and the room changed. Temperature, whispers turned to questions. A dad in a ball cap stood. "Is that why my wife got fined for a porch swing?" An older woman muttered. They did the same to the Johnsons, and Preston tried to calm us with a line about serious allegations requiring time. But the vote for a third-party audit rolled through like a storm, and within days, the AG confirmed an active investigation. Cameras found Preston in his driveway, and his answers clanked like dull metal. The board saw the writing on the wall and removed him. Not close. And Linda's blinds went shut for good. You'd think that would taste like victory, and in a way it did, like a fever breaking. But it also left a bruise where trust used to sit. I said no when folks asked me to run the HOA. I didn't fight this to run the show. I fought it, so no one else would have to. So I started old-school evening walks instead. No decals, no dash lights, just flashlights and conversation. We fix the odd porch bulb. We wave at teens cutting across lawns. We remind each other we live here together. And on a warm Saturday, Zoe and Eli helped me wash the Tahoe paid in popsicles. Tomas called them the best shop crew in the county, and for the first time in weeks, my shoulders dropped. Then an unsigned letter landed in my mailbox, clipped words saying some folks still felt threatened by the impression of law enforcement, which told me the story isn't done. Not really. The audit continues. The investigation will take months. Lawyers will lawyer, and the neighborhood will keep being itself, mixed up and loud and beautiful and worth the work. So tell me this, and be honest. Was I wrong to keep those removable decals for a simple safety walk, even if the optics got twisted? Should false 911 calls that turn a dad into a suspect in front of his kids carry real penalties? Are HOAs useful tools some people abuse, or engines for control that occasionally remember to help? If you were in that room, would you have voted to oust Preston or asked for more time? Drop your take in the comments. Share what you've seen on your own block. The helpers, the bullies, the rules that protect, and the ones that choke. And if this story hits something in you, like the video, subscribe. Send it to someone who needs the reminder that loud wrong can roar for a while, but quiet right learns how to stand its ground.